The majority of that is made up by the bottom 2/3 of the rocket, that being the first stage. This particular booster has flown 12 times before, going for its 13th flight tonight, tail number 1077 in the SpaceX fleet. At the base of the first stage are the 9 Merlin engines, which burn rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen to produce 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff. Above the Falcon 9 first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core surrounded by carbon fiber. In the image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see those deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere tail first, like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches, which attach to the second stage. At first stage main engine cutoff, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, or pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Second stage engine nozzle is also safely housed inside the inner stage adapter until stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage of the Falcon 9, powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine, or an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle, which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, hence the name. It produces more than 200,000 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight to place the 23 Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. The MVAC engine, same as the first stage, burns RP1 and liquid oxygen. Following satellite deployment, it will ignite for a third time for a deorbit burn to drive the upper stage back into the atmosphere while it will burn up and help eliminate the risk of any unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, at the very top of the rocket are those payload fairings, which encapsulate the 23 Starlink satellites. The fairings are made up of a carbon composite material and is 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall and 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. The two halves of the payload fairing will be recovered a little further downrange from where the first stage lands on the drone ship. They splash down gently under parachutes. And as previously mentioned, they'll be brought back to Port Canaveral, subsequently Cape Canaveral Space Force Station for refurbishment following the mission. We'll start to move away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Getting a great view of those payload fairings. Again, while SpaceX doesn't often provide updates on how many flights the fairings have each, they have said in recent months that they're working towards certifying both their boosters and their fairings for up to 40 flights apiece. Now T-minus 3 minutes, 27 seconds and counting. Coming up at about the 3-minute mark is when the first stage liquid oxygen tank fill process should be wrapping up. As we come into the final few minutes here, I want to thank a few more folks for your support tonight. Our thanks again to the Adventures of Mr. Pickles for a very generous $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, Mr. Pickles. Anthony Sodini, $5 super chat, saying they're visiting Cocoa Beach, coming down from Michigan. Pumped to see my second launch in person ever, which is always fantastic to hear.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Hear that good call out on stage 1 LOX load wrapping up. Coming up in about 30 seconds or so, the same process will conclude on the second stage. I want to welcome JJ Jones joining us with channel membership at the pad leader level. Welcome aboard, JJ. We're glad to have you with us. Stephen Ross with a very generous $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, Stephen, who says thank
you. Go for launch.
30 seconds, and we have the SpaceX launch directors go for launch. We are preparing to see the liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket coming up now in just 20 seconds. And here we go in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket, sending up the Starlink 6-63 mission. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. And what a beautiful ascent above Florida's Space Coast we have tonight, folks. Now 30 seconds into flight. Got multiple great views here. Right now we're taking a look at the views from our friend Chuck Briggs. This from our own Adam Bernstein tracking camera here at the press site. And now Pete Carson's Max Q Productions. Falcon 9 now traveling faster than the speed of sound as we're coming upon Max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Q.
Now a little more than a minute and a half into this mission, coming upon 3 events in fairly rapid succession. First, we'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That'll be followed by stage separation 4 seconds later. The Merlin vacuum engine will ignite at T plus 2 minutes 36 seconds, and then everything will be capped off here with fairing deployment just a hair after the 3-minute mark. We're now more than 2 minutes into flight. Some great tracking views, this courtesy of Pete Carson's with Max Q Productions. Some gorgeous color on the plume of this Falcon 9 rocket as it takes flight underneath the glow of a full moon. We have MECO, stage separation, and SES-1.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
And all good callouts seeing those events happening and a slight delay from the SpaceX feed. Should see fairing deployment momentarily. And there you see those payload fairings falling away now. See the same thing on the onboard cameras in just a second here.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Well, normally we would see them. Apparently there's some sort of issue. That camera, or at least getting that feed down in that moment. Unfortunate timing. But we were able to get views of that with our own tracking cameras, which of course is why we do it for you folks. Coming up on the 4th minute into flight. Just a little over 2 minutes from now, we'll see the next big milestone coming up will be the start of the first stage entry burn, which if the cloud conditions are right, we may be able to see with our tracking cameras on the ground here. That entry burn lasts about 25 seconds tonight. Now, a little more than 5 minutes into flight, everything appears to be moving along nominally with this mission. Getting some views of the Falcon 9 inner stage. It's the box at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Of course, just below that is the Merlin vacuum engine from the SpaceX onboard camera perspective. You'll see it shifting back and forth like it did just there. And that's in order for the engineers on the ground to make sure that it is still, that the ignition is still moving along evenly, that there are no overly hot spots on that Merlin vacuum engine. Coming up on the start of the entry burn right about now.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And we've
Stage
got
1
eyes on it.
FTS is saved.
Well done, Pete. Energy burn set to wrap up in real time momentarily. Almost looking like a comet in that shot. It was actually really cool. I'm seeing views from the SpaceX onboard cameras.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Small red dot you see there in the center of your screen from our friend Chuck Briggs, that is still the
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Merlin vacuum engine as it continues on in its burn. For the call out that the stage 2 FTS has been saved, the flight termination system now no longer needed for this phase of flight. So you can see though the, I actually can't see in this view, but the speedometer on the Falcon 9 first stage continues to plummet as the vehicle makes its way towards the drone ship and is slowing down dramatically. Coming up on the start of the landing burn now, less than 30 seconds.
Stage 1
It'll set up
supersonic.
a landing of the booster on the drone ship. Just read the instructions at about T plus 8 minutes and 15 seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
With that landing burn underway, we should see some views from the drone ship popping up right there on cue.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And for the 13th time, booster 1077 is back up and back down on the drone ship.